Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we're live. I'm just going to go ahead and check on Facebook and confirm that we're live. While I do that, Dallas, do you want to start off just to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm Dallas Inman. I work at a machine learning company called Digital Reasoning. We are FinTech top 50 financial services company specializing in analyzing human communication. I am a product manager on a product called Cognition, which is geared at being able to leverage active learning to bring machine learning to the masses. So we have an intuitive UI where users can identify yes and no labels to help facilitate building machine learning models.
Cool. And what's your current PM goal? Like, what are you trying to level up in product management skills, or what are you trying to do?
So I'm trying to level up product management skills, along with trying to build out my resume to help me find a job out in San Francisco. I've been a PM for 1 year right now, so it's a combination of both. So I signed up for a PM lesson to kind of help level up some of those skills and leverage some of that into trying to find a job out in San Francisco.
Cool. And so for those of you who are joining in watching us, this is a PM lesson live mock interview. So this is kind of a new method we're trying out where we interview folks live on Facebook Live. We'll usually do a short question. This whole session will take about 20 minutes or so. And the idea is that, hopefully Dallas, who's joining us, will get some value out of it, and it'll also be an educational tool for a lot of people watching in. If you're interested in PM lesson or any of product management interview prep, you can visit the website at pmlesson.com. And we're currently running a promotion for the first 50 people to sign up for our course. So if you're interested in being one of those first 50 people, I think we have about 16 or so left, reach out to me or comment on this post, and we can set you up with the right code so that you can get that access. Cool. So without further ado, we'll kind of jump into the PM interview. So, Dallas, could you answer the question, what is your favorite product and why?
My favorite product right now, I would say, is the Apple Airpods. To me, one of my favorite reasons that it's my favorite product is it's kind of the perfect and kind of harmonious combination of hardware and software working seamlessly together. I use them all day, pretty much every day, except for right now. I left them at home. So, but my favorite product would be the Apple Airpods.
Cool. And tell me a little bit more about why you like them, or what are some of the features that you think are really awesome about the Apple Airpods?
So to me, I'm an Apple fanboy, and since when I first got the Apple Airpods, you just open them up and it says connect and it's just magic. So, you have the hardware, but then it's also leveraging the iOS software to connect between all your devices. So that seamless interactivity or interactiveness between, switching between all of your devices, it just works. And I feel like that's kind of the Apple mantra, where they're just simple and intuitive, and you don't have to really think about it, right? It's just in the back of your mind. You just know that they're working. You don't really have to think about, switching between all of your devices.
Gotcha. Cool. So, you love the Apple ecosystem is what I'm hearing. Like, a lot of the big part about Apple to you is that, like, it's Apple and it works with pretty much everything that you do.
Yeah.
What do you think about the AirPods? Like, where do you see it going in the next few years? Like, what do you see the value out of it? A lot of people kind of think it looks silly. A lot of people think that maybe it's just like kind of a gimmick. Maybe Bluetooth headphones are really frustrating because they die, unlike these headphones that we're using right now.
Yeah.
Why do you believe in the Apple AirPod, or what do you see the future of the Apple AirPods being?
So I think one of the main critiques of the Apple AirPods right now is kind of sound quality. So, if you're an audiophile and the like, you're like, I don't really want those, right? Like, maybe they're nice and they're intuitive, they're easy to use, but I don't think the sound quality is that great. So I think one thing the Apple end up doing in the future is trying to, leverage more research and technology to improve the audio quality for people who may already be on the fence about them, because they can go somewhere else and get something, relatively in the same price range with better audio quality. So I think that that's one thing that I see them doing in the future, is trying to appease some of the audiophiles in that market.
Gotcha. So quality is great, and I think it's an important way to improve the product. Do you imagine that in the future everyone will have one of these AirPods, and will it just be kind of playing the music in the ear, or what else will those AirPods do?
So I think continuing in the future, if you already in the Apple ecosystem, that would be like a natural transition for users to those those Bluetooth AirPods, just because they work with all of your devices, right? So like the other night my fiance was in bed, she's going to bed early, and I just connect them to my Apple TV, continue watching TV and the like. So I feel like if you're an Apple user already in that ecosystem, that gives you that extra incentive to eventually make the jump to the Bluetooth AirPods.
Cool. Okay, and then so kind of switching gears a little bit to the second part of the question, how would you improve that product? So what do you think, where does it fall short right now? Or what, you must use it a lot. Where are your frustrations?
So my frustrations for it, or for them, are they fit in some people's ears better than others, right? So what they're trying to do is this kind of catch-all, like, hey, one size fits all for the AirPods, but that's not necessarily the case for everybody. I mean, not everybody, the AirPods work better for some people than they do other, based off of, kind of, I guess, for lack of a better term, the dimensions of ears, right? So sometimes I have trouble with fallout every once in a while if I'm jogging or, something like that, or exercising. But I think one thing that they can do is to, make it so that, they fit better into more people's ears.
Gotcha. And how do you think about doing that? So there's a few approaches I can imagine. They could use like a different material in the ear that kind of like form fits to the ear, but then they could also do things like sell different ear shape sizes, or is there a way that you envision them tackling that problem in the future, or how would you tackle that problem, or think about tackling that problem?
Yeah, so I mean, I've even Googled it myself, like, right, and people had these kind of hacky workarounds where maybe they had like little pieces of I think it was kind of like plastic that kind of like sticks to the top of them so that they stick in your ears better. But I think I don't think it would be in the Apple way of kind of just releasing like, hey, here's all these adjustable ones that you can do. But maybe that is a route where you have the AirPods, and then you can buy these like adjustable pieces based off of how they would what would fit best in your ears.
Gotcha. And so you've clearly used the product, and you know how it works. So what would you think if Apple one day came up with this idea that they can 3D print your ear, they can scan your ear, and then create an ear pod that's a perfect size for you?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Like, good idea, bad idea? Would that be what kind of direction would that be for Apple?
I think that to people who are in the Apple ecosystem and the fanboys, like, Apple does no wrong, right? So there will be I think some of those outliers where you go into an Apple store and you make an appointment and they scan your ear and like, hey, you spit out your AirPods, right? And I think that would probably be one of the craziest ideas that they've ever had. But I definitely see a fan base that would totally do that. And like, it's a doctor's appointment, but you're going into the Apple store, right? So I think that would be crazy. But people, if you're already in the Apple ecosystem, you would do it in a heartbeat.
So do you think it should be something on Apple's radar? Like, if you had to make the call about, like, someone comes up to you with this project and they're like, hey, we think that this is a good idea. What do you think as the product manager on this product? Why, or what would, like, maybe you don't have a clear consideration now, but what factors would you use to consider making that decision? Depending,
factors for 3D printing your ear, right? So is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically like factors
Um,
for deciding whether or not to launch that product or that feature, basically. You're right that it involves a lot of like people
yeah.
going into some kind of facility where they can get that thing scanned. And, this is probably 5 years in the future if it even happens, but who knows with Apple. But so, just walk me through like how you would think about whether or not to greenlight that project. And, maybe the idea that it does take like 3 years to actually build out this whole thing. So it takes a lot of
Yeah.
research and development work. So if we want to do
Hmm.
something in this direction, we should decide something now. What's your
Yeah.
take?
Um, first thing I would probably do is send out a survey to current like users, Apple users, like, hey, do you have AirPods? Like, what are some of your shortcomings with them? Like if they fall out of your ears, and the like, and just kind of get a feel for whatever they're if they're experiencing some of those pain points, right, with the AirPods falling out of their ears. And then so I would do that survey. And I really don't have a great answer for that past that
Cool,
point.
no problem. Cool. So we're pretty much done with the interview at this point. It's just a simple, short question, and then we'll go on to feedback and kind of discussing the question a little bit more in a
Yeah,
more casual manner. But is there anything else you wanted to add about AirPods, about your answer in general?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Cool. So we're done with that. For the people who are watching either now or later, this is a pmlesson.com live interview. So we are interviewing folks live so that it's an educational experience and helping people better ace their product management interview. I'm with Dallas. I'm Steven. I'm with Dallas. This is we're talking about Apple AirPods as the favorite product here. So Dallas, so overall, I think you had a solid answer in terms of you really knew the product well. Like I could tell that the fact that I smiled when you said that you Googled about the product or about the problem. It's like, okay, this guy like clearly uses the product. He knows how this product works, and I think it's a great starting point. A big mistake a lot of people make is that they start with some product they don't even know, and it's like, it's very clear very soon why. Why did you pick that question? I would say
Yeah.
that you talked a little bit about the ecosystem and about quality, or sorry, you talked about ecosystem and kind of like the branding, and like Apple just has such a powerful grip on the industry that like adding this headphone component is just an obvious extension of Apple. I
Yeah.
think one thing that would be really important to mention in your interview answer is the backlash that was received when Apple released the AirPods and deleted the headphone jack. So like the headphone jack was like a huge complaint for a lot of people, and maybe that doesn't
Yes.
touch on like AirPods itself, but it's certainly a shift in the market towards a Bluetooth headphone
Yeah.
that a lot of users are very frustrated about still. So it's worth bringing that up, I would say. I think the other thing that I would mention is just it's pretty clear that Apple has a strong grip on the ecosystem, on its ecosystem, and its branding is great. Most of us know that as an interviewer, so you're not really telling me anything new. So it'd be awesome if you could convince me of something that I don't already know in your interview answer, or kind of like tell me something new. So cool, Apple's great at everything. They can launch anything they want. They can launch like a who knows, like a toilet,
Kind
and
of like
maybe
a
they'll be
prosthetic
successful at that
arm
too.
or something, right? Yeah.
Right. But
And people
my
cut off
question
their
to
arm
you,
just to buy the.
yeah, honestly, like they're already paying leg and arm or whatever that expression is. Um,
Yeah.
I would say that really convince me of why Apple decided to do headphones, right? Because Apple could have done a Google Home competitor. Apple could have done its own TV brand or something. There's a lot of things that Apple could do in its ecosystem. But why was
Hmm.
headphones the right next step for them, and why now? Because basically, your statement that like Apple can do anything is great, but it doesn't justify exactly this product. So I would love to see a little more justification, and just to give you a sense of like what might be an interesting way to go is, you talked about fit as being something that can be improved, and I think that's absolutely right, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think another really interesting trend in the world right now is voice assistant technology.
Yeah.
So you could say that like AirPods are the step for Apple to get smarts in your ear. And maybe the AirPods work without the iPhone, or the iPhone's in your pocket, and the AirPods can do things like navigate you. They can do things like answer questions, with Siri, because Siri is so powerful. So, really weaving in the other. So, like, yeah, even if your approach is that it's the ecosystem approach, tell me how Apple's ecosystem will crush it in this product. And Siri is like a great way to think about it, right? Like, Siri is a huge Apple like branding, and also just like a great product that Apple has created. Maybe some disagree that like they can put directly in your ear. So the fact that Apple has such a powerful voice assistant and now earphones is like they have the hardware and software juices to make something really special happen. So overall, I'm just trying to give you some like spices and flavors that hopefully add some things to your answer. I think it was good, but I just wish there was a little bit more. You took me a little bit further down the line with like some really innovative stuff.
Would you?
Go ahead. Yeah,
oh, no, I was going to ask. Yeah, so I guess would it be beneficial? Like, so how like Google tried to do their like Pixel AirPod thing type things, right? And they just, to me, as far as like my point of view, they haven't really taken off like the AirPods have, right? You think it'd be beneficial to like throw that in? It's like, hey, Google tried to do this, but it wasn't like as seamless or as magical, right, as what Apple had ended up doing with the AirPods. Because I think there's like one extra step with those like Pixel Buds that they did, but they just never really caught on like the Apple version of that did.
Yeah. One thing
that would,
a way that I would phrase kind of what you're saying, or like what's one thing that I also just believe about the industry is that like at the end of the day, AirPods are kind of a fashion product, right? Like in the very early iPod ads, you used to see like the black shadows and then like the white earbuds, kind of the dancing around kind of thing. And Apple knows fashion. Apple is in many ways, some people claim it to be a fashion company at its core. And the fact that Apple makes it's not surprising maybe that Apple can make a fashionable, well-branded earpod that outbeats its competitors. And keep in mind, it also has Beats by Dre. It also owns Beats by Dre. So like, it really has a lot of headphone maybe know-how and branding know-how and power kind of behind its brand now in the music space. So yeah, I would say that it seems to me to like that, at least in terms of virality, and perhaps the Google earbuds are not any better or worse, but just Apple has more branding power to make that thing happen.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, that'd be maybe one way to phrase kind of like how Apple is dominating that space. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's certainly other things you could talk about. There's Apple Music. What are all the like audio only kind of platforms that Apple has? So then I just wanted to talk a little bit about the improve part of the question too, and then we can just kick it to like any questions. And audience, whoever's watching, feel free to give comments. We might not have as many viewers right now because it's kind of during the West Coast workday, and that's where a lot of people are. But anyways, so the improve part, I think fit is awesome. I think we talked about some interesting ideas. I would say that we definitely I could have heard more firmness in your answers. Like you're kind of a little wishy-washy in your answers, so it would have been nice to hear like, okay, like this is what I think. Like this is what I should do. I think that would have really kind of like kicked your answer up a notch. So for example, with the like crazy idea that you're scanning ears, maybe the important element there is that it's a privacy thing. Like, is it okay for Apple to have data of people's ears like that? Like that's kind of weird, and it kind of pushes it a little bit, right? I would basically like take this interview question, which is kind of amorphous, pick an element of it and really like drill into it. Like really like tell me, okay, so privacy, let's talk about privacy, or let's talk about the operational cost of this. Like maybe that's just not feasible for Apple right now. Like we can't just have people going in, getting their ears scanned, like all that kind of stuff. Or tell me that it is possible because we're going to pay an agency to do this, and there are similar agencies out there, and that the desire for this product will be amazing. Or maybe if the desire is not even like amazing, the fact that a user can get an earphone that's exactly fitting to their ear, that customer is going to stay a customer with us for a long, long time, right? Because they just got like a human customized device for them. So that's crazy. Like that's like, wow, like that's awesome. I would never throw that away,
Yeah.
So basically, just like what I would do is, you don't want to address all of these necessarily, but pick one or two, really tell me about them, like give me some rich information.
Yeah.
Spend this interview question like telling me things that I don't already know and impressing me with kind of your insights and your knowledge. So again, I just felt like you could have gone a little bit further and a little tighter in your answers instead of as wishy-washy. But understand that it's like kind of a out there idea, so no worries.
Oh, I love
Also,
that idea. I mean, it's not too far from what, musicians do, right? So it's like, hey, and they're already in the audio space, so
yeah. So when and for you and for all the people watching too, like when you think about this question, make sure that you're thinking in the future, 5 years ahead, and where you think this product will go. So fit is a great answer to that, but tell me like fit, and this is how we're going to get to that fit. Like this is our approach, or this is the cool approach that I'm thinking of that Apple could
yeah.
do. Cool. So that's pretty much it in terms of feedback. Like overall, I gave you a lot of feedback, but overall, you did a great job. Again, like a great job picking something you really know well, and you
Hmm.
do have core insights that I think are real. Like the fact that Apple owns that much of an ecosystem is why this product can be so successful. And there's so many evidence to point to that. So great job overall with this question. Is there anything else you kind of wanted to chat about or talk about in this session? Before we kind of wrap up and sign off?
No, I mean, so I guess I would ask. I mean, it's probably beneficial to anybody watching, but how common is this interview question? So I know you picked like, hey, you want to say, what is your favorite product? And I assume that the reason that you picked that is because that is one of the more common, if not, the most common that you're going to get if you're starting your, interview process to, either make a parallel shift or, promote it or, something of the like it's a pretty common interview question, right?
Yeah, so I would say that this is the most common interview question. It's one that I recommend most people rehearse on some level or practice a little bit. In the PM lesson course, there's a whole lesson on this particular question and gives you some more information about how you might think about it in an example answer by me. But yeah, definitely prepare something for this question. I would actually prepare a few products for this question because sometimes they ask curveballs like, what's your favorite Google product or what's your favorite X product, But yeah, I would say this is one of the most common questions, definitely worth rehearsing. The reason I asked this question on these interviews is because it's so common that it's always worth it for people to get some extra practice on this one.
Yeah. And I guess the other question I would ask is, so, I did, something like an actual like tangible product that I can like hold, right? I mean, is it a pretty common misstep for somebody to just pick like an application or, on their phone, or, is it too far-fetched to say, hey, like, no, my favorite product is actually like my Yeti tumbler or something? Like, do they really care what your favorite product is, or just something that you're actually like passionate about that you love using every day?
Definitely lean more towards the latter. Like you could say Domino's Pizza is your favorite product if you really want to. But I would say that as long as you pick something that's rich enough that you can have a deep, kind of interesting conversation about. So like if it's a mug, maybe like you're gonna run out of insightful things to say about the mug, probably, But perhaps it could be a book, even, or I generally would stick to like products that you use in some way, like not a book actually, but a thermos could be a really cool one if there's some kind of smart thermos or there's something interesting about the thermos.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, you want to pick something that you use, that you're passionate about, and that you can actually talk for a while about, and you can have some insightful conversations about.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't have to be an app, doesn't have to be a physical product, it could be anything.
Yeah, because I would say if I wasn't like super prepared, I probably would just pick like, the app that I use the most, which is like Gmail or something, but I wouldn't be super passionate about that.
Yeah, that's a hard one because like Gmail is you would have to tell me some really interesting things about Gmail because I know Gmail really well, right? So tell me, like, I would prefer you pick something that you use more than I do, almost, like more than the interviewer does, like something that you really know well,
Yeah.
and that you maybe have made some decisions on how you would use it too, like competitors are something worth bringing up. So tell me about like why you chose this product over its competitors, and you'll only know that if you've already used the product a lot or know the space well.
Yeah. And so I had like one more question, and then we can in this or whatever. But so what exactly? So you're the interviewer. You're asking me, what is your favorite product? Like, what are they trying to get most out of this question? Like, like insights into me as the person interviewing for the product management role.
The interviewer wants to hear that you love products, first of all, because product management is managing products.
Right.
The interviewer wants to hear that you have something insightful to say, something novel to say in this question. So like, tell the interviewer something they don't already know. They don't want to just have a conversation they've had multiple times. And the interviewer wants you to be thinking critically about products. So that's why they ask the follow-up question. That's the improve question. They want to hear that you not only like are insightful, but you've also thought critically about it, and you have some interesting things to say about how you'd improve it. And that gets a little bit into product strategy, product vision. But the point is that it's an open-ended question for you to show off that you just think about products.
Yeah.
So that's why I say something that you can discuss a lot. That's something that you can have some interesting opinions about, and products that you know really well as well. They're not trying to, they would love to get to know you better, and they'll probably ask some behavioral questions, but this isn't quite one of them. This is more, it is an actual interview question. They actually do want to hear something. They might grill you on some follow-up questions about it. So it is really testing your insight and critical thinking ability about products.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, Dallas, it was great chatting with you. For those listening, again, this is PM Lesson. You can visit pmlesson.com for more great PM interview prep and practice. And please DM us if you are interested in doing one of these sessions. We're always interested in building that list of people who are interested in doing this session. Thank you, Dallas, for joining us. I'm Stephen from PM Lesson, and this was a PM Lesson live mock interview. All right,
Thanks.
I'm ending the broadcast.